Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. I am excited to be here today with Sherrie Derr from Schlick Construction. They're located in Omaha, Nebraska. Really excited to have you on the show today, Sherrie. Welcome.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, so why don't you give us just a little bit of background? I mean, how did you get into construction? What does Schlick do? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I personally was raised in construction. My dad was an electrician, and I remember being 8 years old. I didn't go to the job much with him, except when my little hands could do stuff or things like that. But I remember my dad and my uncle were running wire in a gym, and they had me on the top of a the scaffolding. But I wasn't on the boards like it should be. I was on because I was too short. I was on the pipes, and
The pipes.
so
Oh, man.
I'm pushing the wire through, and they're yelling, "Push it faster!" I'm like 70 feet up, going, "Whoa, I don't know." So, and then my dad built 3 of our houses, so I just was always in construction. I love construction because every day is different. You never know what you're going to get into. You wonder why people do different things, and then you open the wall and you're like, that's why they did that. So I just really enjoy construction piece of it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And so what led you to start your own business?
Actually, I don't own the business. I should phrase that, but I do run it. I'm the general manager. The
Okay.
owner has moved to Florida and pretty much retired. So, or he still has some into the business, but he's not in the day to day. So I pretty much run it. I have been with Schlick for 3 years. When I first started, they had no systems. They had nothing. They didn't have any software, nothing. It was taking them 6 months to get estimates out to people, and they were trying to count how many nails and how many screws, and I'm like, you have to have a system. You have to have something that can just be a template that you can just run through these invoices quickly and get them back out to the people and get moved on to the next. So
Yeah. And how long had the business been operating before you came in?
so we just celebrate our 20-year anniversary last month. So Mike got his start in construction kind of the same way his dad was. Mike is the owner, Mike Schlickburn, and his dad was in construction also. And Mike started in property management and doing remodels there. And then him and his wife, she was a realtor, and between the two of them, they flipped over 400 houses. And so that's where they really got their start.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you joined the business, was he kind of bringing you in to sort of take over all the operations? Was that the plan, or did you just kind of work that way?
It just kind of worked that way. He had some big project that got finished up, and when that got finished up, then the construction was ready to move on. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, although they've been in business for 20 years, he's kind of stepped away, and so now we're doing marketing and kind of rebranding because he'd done so much of the flips and things for his own portfolio that once he got done with that, then we're starting all over. So it's kind of exciting. We're kind of at ground zero in setting up systems and getting a team going. So,
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So before you joined this company, I mean, like what was your background coming in?
I went to school for an accounting, and that did not go well. I mean, it was fine, but I'm just not a person to sit behind the desk and do that. So I started with a door company, and it was right like doing their bookkeeping. But it was right when cell phones came out. And so once the cell phone came out, he was like, "Why don't you come out to the job with me?" So I was the holder. So I always tell my guys, I'm like, I know when something doesn't look right. I'm not going to be able to tell you how it doesn't look, how you're supposed to do it, but I know it doesn't look right. So I did that for 15 years. Then I got a real job and worked for a school district for about 2 and decided that that was no fun. Um, Sitting behind a computer, being in the same place every day, yuck. Uh, and then I went um, to a floor place, did floors for property management, doing the project management of that. And then I had the opportunity to go to Hawaii for about 5 years, being the client liaison in between the construction and the clients. So I
Ah,
always tell the clients that when we start, you're gonna be sad when we leave. And they're like, "I don't think so." But we just hung out and was able to answer, because in Hawaii, we did a lot of, retired, widowed ladies that when the guys are like, "Oh, we're just gonna put a GFCI in," she's like, "I don't know what that is." So it was always easy to answer those questions for them and just be a part of their life and help them get it all put together.
sure. So it sounds like you've seen a couple different businesses here and how they run and operate. So, when you came into Schlick, has it, kind of describe a little bit sort of what was the situation before, and then kind of what did you say, hey, look, I know we need to make some changes. We need to implement some systems, some processes. Like, kind of what sort of cultivated that need for change, would you say?
When I started, I inherited a computer from someone that was doing the estimating, and I was on it about a week, and then Mike asked me what I thought, and I was like, "I think we're gonna go to breakfast or go to lunch and I'm just gonna be a consultant. I'm not gonna go as your employee, and I'm just gonna talk straight with you. You've gotta have a system, you gotta have a software, we gotta have a way that we can keep everything in one place so anyone looks at the job, they know exactly where we're at on it, what's going on, where's the pictures." Um, and he's like, "Oh, wow, that sounds really good." So I introduced him to another software system, and we got that going. I gotta put together a whole catalog with pricings, and they really had kind of started it, so it was just a matter of implementing what they already had. But they were doing it, like I said, they were doing estimates, counting every nail instead of just throwing 500 at the job, and you go on from there. So
Yeah. And so was that, something that I guess kind of like you spearheaded the change to kind of really get that fully implemented up and running, and then was the owner bought into that? Was he good with that? Because like I know a lot of times there can be resistance to change, and so it can often be sort of tough to navigate the look. Here are the pains that we're seeing. We need to make this change, and how did you go about kind of working with not only Mike but like the rest of the team, all of your laborers, the people that were, kind of out in the field using it. Like, how was that transition?
So with Mike, the owner, it was very, very welcomed. The general manager at the time we had a little bit of a bump with him. He just felt like I was coming in and taking over, and I was like, "That's not my heart at all. That's not what I'm just attempting to make us better. That's all."
Yeah.
And so once we got on board with that, and he saw that I was using his numbers and was still asking him how he wanted things estimated and just really seeking his knowledge, because he spent his whole life in construction, and so his knowledge was valuable to me, and I didn't want to lose that. So once we got him on board, that was good, and then the next step was kind of the accounting. Um, they had other software, and they didn't like how it interacted with each other, and so they were very hesitant on just saying, "Okay, well, we're just gonna implement this, and it's gonna work great with QuickBooks," and so once we proved to the accountant, let him play with it, they were like, "Okay, That's good.
Yeah, definitely can take a little bit of time to help people get comfortable, especially when you're going to mix it up with with QuickBooks and getting all the books in there. So
Hmm.
I can imagine that might have been a sticking point for a little while.
Yeah.
And did you all like? And so I mean, you're uh, pretty sure that was what, back in like 2022, 2023, and then you ended up making the transition over to JobTread. What
Yes.
was it like migrating from one system that, again, you were the first to sort of introduce the software to begin with, and then to tell people, okay, now we're going to make another change. Was that as disruptive as the first time, or?
No, it was really smoothly. It was kind of organic in that the system that we was with was phasing themselves out and pricing themselves out of the league, and they would just like things that we were using, they weren't supporting anymore, so it was very easy to, like, transition into, JobTread.
Right.
And then JobTread, our, helper is Stephanie, and I'm like, "She's a part of my team." I call Stephanie, and she's just like, "Oh, yeah, we just do this, or we do that." So the, customer support of JobTread is awesome. There's just I cannot say enough about you guys. You guys do a great job of just of helping and answering those silly questions of what's a GFCI when it in the software world,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it
Stephanie's awesome. I mean, our whole customer success team, I think, a lot of people might not realize, but we only hire people who have construction experience to work with all of our clients, because like I feel like it's so important for them to be able to really understand, what you're going through, and like they need to have been there themselves. Like I can't just give them, a bunch of experience, trying to manage, subcontractors or building estimates or dealing with cash flow. Like that's just something that, like, the more experience that they've had on their own, it really helps. And I think then it is awesome to hear, though, that you view her as an extension of your team, because that's like exactly what we want our clients to feel like, is like, hey, like we are here to help. Like we have, genuinely want to see you be successful. And so when you can tap into that experience and have somebody who's implemented, hundreds or thousands of construction companies, I mean, that is a value added resource. But a lot of times people don't reach out and they don't ask the questions, and I feel like that's just, it's such a missed opportunity, to have that person there who can give you a quick consult and say, hey, are we doing it right? Does this look right? How would you structure this? Like, it's a great resource. So love hearing that that you've really benefited from that.
yeah, I tell people when they're struggling with JobTread of not really getting it and stuff, I'm like, "Well, have you talked to your person?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Well, call them up and talk to them. They're there to help you." And
Well,
they she can just tell me so quickly how to get wherever I'm trying to go, and it's so helpful.
yeah. And so, if I'm not mistaken, you're also working with Randy and Four Level Coach and his team over there. Is that right?
Yes, we are.
And so, how did you find them?
So the draw with Randy is I've done a lot of personal growth in my life, and I just know that my world goes better when I have a coach that they can point out things that are not going well. And so with Randy, um, and being a business coach was pretty exciting. And then to have him come alongside and only do construction, that's a big deal because
Oh,
I mean, we do all our marketing with people that only do construction. Is construction's just such a different system, different every day's it's just very different. They cannot put marketing in for or coaching in for just anything. It just needs, like you said, construction. You're dealing with little like pods of each business. You're dealing with your team, you're dealing with subcontractors, you're dealing with vendors, you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with all of those, and then you've got to get it all together and it's all got to run and that makes a big deal. And then I did a lot of training on systems, so Randy was a great like breath of fresh air. I studied under Marshall Thurber, who did under Buckmaster Fuller, and then also under Deming, which Deming put Ford back on the map with the Taurus. and he's very much a systems person. And so I learned from like Marshall, it's not the person that messed up, it's the system. So look at your system. There's something that you did wrong. If they're putting the pickles on the right side of the hamburger and you want them on the right side and they're putting them on the left, well, look at where your pickle jar. If it's on the left, they're probably putting it on the left. So change your system and get it so that you can help your team succeed. So
Yeah.
we have that conversation a lot with our team of, hey, it's not you, it's the system. So how do we make this system better, or what do we need to do different to tweak it?
Sure. So what is the kind of the makeup of the team? How many people do you have in what roles?
So I have a foreman. We have a foreman and then 4 field workers, and then do a lot of subs.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then you've got a
And
back
accountant.
office, like accountant.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We are
And
looking. We did have an office person, and they went on to do something else, which is fine. So we are looking to fill that again. However, I'm being very specific that I want someone that's system oriented and understands that there's a lot to a system.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have found that it's very important to, really know what you're looking for, know the role, the responsibilities, exactly, what you need to fill, and then take your time finding that right person. I see so many people that will just, take any warm body and put it into a seat, and it's like, yeah, you might think you're solving the problem, but like, if that's not the right person with the right skill set and the right seat, you could really be adding more work to yourself, and eventually you're going to have to deal with that, and deal with the issues and the ramifications of kind of making a bad hire. And so I think it's really important that, you do take the time to find that right person for sure.
Yeah. Randy talks a lot about A players. And if you have A players on your team, they're going to add to your business. And then C players are basically subtractors that you're spending more time
Yeah.
with them, and you're just it's just work.
Yeah.
So
And so who's doing the estimating, the sales?
right now I am.
Okay.
So I have a lot of hats on right now.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like a typical, entrepreneur.
Yes.
Running the ship is, definitely, a lot of irons in the fire that you got to have there. Are you looking to eventually find a dedicated person to solely focus on sales, or do you see that sort of staying within your realm?
No, I think that the sales would move on. I like the production piece of it. So we are looking for a salesperson also to do the sales. And then once they get a signed contract, then that would be our splitting point. That's what we did in Hawaii, that the front end, and then once they did a signed contract, then that came to production, and
Yep.
then that goes into the world of job tread more, and
What's your average, project size look like?
our average project is running um 20 to 30,000 right now.
Okay. And is this primarily like kitchens, baths, kind of just interior remodel?
We are a lot of interior remodel, a lot of we're still in the flip thing from Mike and his wife Jerry doing that piece of it. They have 5 different companies, so they also have a property management company. And so that bu feeds us a lot
Mm,
of work through the property management.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what is kind of the longer term vision here, if you will? Obviously having the owner sort of stepping back, stepping away, down in Florida. What do you think, what's the plan for the business?
Long term, we'd like to move completely into being the kitchen and bath, and what makes us different is the systems, and that we do a good job of communicating, and JobTread does a great job of helping us communicate with the customer, that it communicates, puts the message out there, they can answer right from their message, from their email, however, but it goes right back into our job. So then the guys in the field can see that, or the subs can see that. And so that's like one of the things that I really love about JobTread is it helps that communication piece, because it's so easy to forget. Oh, they said that the dining room light, they wanted it off-centered because of the way their table, and if it's not in the notes, if it's not in the job, it's easy to forget that kind of thing.
Sure. Sure. So, I mean, from a company standpoint, though, I mean, do you foresee, Mike staying I guess kind of involved or keeping the business, or do you think he's gonna, ultimately want to sell it or turn it over to the employees?
That's the construction piece is his baby. So when I first took over, we went for a while with just getting fed by property management, and I'm like, we're starving. We need more than that. And so, um, when we started with Randy, we were basically either going to go or close the doors. So, and that within this, we started with Randy 6 months ago, 9 months ago now, and now we're gung ho and got a lot of things going.
Nice. So, have you like, do you guys have like a website, and are you kind of looking to try to sort of generate your own leads and kind of build that funnel sort of and not have to depend on the property management company?
Yes, so we are working with a marketing company, and they updated our website for us, and then now they're working on algorithms, and that's that's not my language, but I can see the results. I'm getting calls, better business people are calling. We're getting good solid leads. It's not just looky loos, so
Yeah,
they're
that's
doing a great
awesome.
job.
And I think that's again a lot of people kind of getting into the details of the marketing and the websites and SEO and how kind of how those sort of all play together to ultimately generate you high quality leads. Like to the extent that that's not in your wheelhouse or someone in your company's wheelhouse, like is definitely great that you've already made the move to hire a marketing agency, a marketing company who can help you with that. A lot of times it doesn't, it doesn't have to be a full-time dedicated employee to
Mm.
being able to do that. But at the end of the day, like you got to make sure that you've got the right pieces in place to keep building, the business and building that marketing funnel in the top of the funnel where all those leads are coming in. Like if that's not getting filled, well, then you're going to have a hard time continuing to hit your monthly goals and kind of turning enough, leads into customers to be able to deliver. So that's definitely a great move that you already got that ball rolling.
For sure.
Well,
And to not fall in the trap, I think that's where Mike was feeling like, and he did. He um built a lot of his business by word of mouth.
yeah,
However, we're we're beyond that now. It's a lot of how many reviews does people have, and I mean that's how I shop. I'm like, what reviews the best,
yeah,
and go from there. So why wouldn't we get on that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I see people all the time, like, they work and work and work, and once they land a deal, well, then they turn all their attention to focusing on that project and sort of neglect that, hey, you got to keep bringing in more and more leads and keep filling the funnel. And that's where, ultimately, I think, and my recommendation is usually make sure that you got somebody focused full time on sales and continuing to kind of, nurture those leads and kind of progress those deals along, because it's easy, when you're wearing all the hats to kind of say, okay, well, here's the higher pressing, I got a job running right now, and, it seems like I'm firefighting and having to go deal with all those things, like to forget that, well, you got to keep that engine going. And so I think, to some extent, it's very, very important that, you figure out how to keep that process, up and running. And, eventually maybe you get into, doing more, social posting, even running some ads. Obviously word of mouth and referrals are, I think the best leads that you can get, and usually the cheapest, because you're not necessarily having to pay for them. But sometimes you do have to figure out ways to supplement that and kind of keep it coming, even just organically.
Yes. Yep.
So would you say that once you get somebody in and like you go out there, like what's the sales process look like? I mean, are you charging to go do estimates? Do you charge a design agreement? Like how do you kind of sort of what's that process look like once you get them in?
Honestly, we're building that still. I right now we say that we don't go out for free estimates. We'll go out for a free consultation, and from there, kind of look at their project, figure out what their budget is, and give them a guesstimate of this isn't a hard number, but this is
Yeah.
where you're at to see if it makes sense to move forward. Um, so that's kind of what we're doing, but I'm not I see the value of charging upfront. People are used to that, and so I mean that's when we do our projects before we start, we get a deposit of, depending on how long the project's going to be, but we get most of the money up front, 50 to 60% up front, and then
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely I'd say kind of two camps of, well, do you charge for the estimate or not? Do you charge for the design agreement or some sort of other way to get them in the door? Versus so essentially once you turn around, depending on the level of detail that you provide in that estimate, I mean that some people kind of worry that they're just going to take that and go shop it, or you've given them all the ideas and the answers there. I mean, sometimes though it's not as big of a deal. Sort of really depends on your business and kind of how much time and effort you're having to put in to deliver that estimate. But probably for the smaller projects, I definitely see less or fewer contractors trying to kind of have that design agreement, sort of that intermediary, before getting to the construction contract. But sounds like, kind of at the average of $20,000-$30,000 projects, you can probably get in there, give them a pretty good, ballpark to really try to weed out the people who, maybe are going to get a little bit of sticker shock or not prepared to move forward with that size of project. You kind of want to figure that out as early as possible. So I assume, part of that kind of flushing out the process will help you determine, is this a qualified lead? Do we think they're going to move forward? Like, how much time do we want to invest, into that at this point?
it was interesting of just changing from the wording on our website and different places from free estimate to free consultation. It felt like it got rid of a lot of the looky-loos.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
it just is something that I kind of noticed. I'm like, we really didn't do anything except we're not just coming out to give you a price and go on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that's again, the value of, marketing and A/B testing and kind of trying different, different phrases, even different imagery, different, kind of call to actions. Like, then you can really sort of try to refine, like, what is getting the most conversions, and then as soon as you sort of figure that out, because, again, every market is a little bit different, kind of depending on your price point, depending on the type of work you're doing, you may end up kind of finding those kind of those ultimately those optimized solutions there for you. But yeah, what would you say once you get them into the construction, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have kind of going from contract signed all the way to completion?
Um, s- it goes a lot to scheduling. However, that is something that I enjoy. I do tell the clients, I'm like, you will see a schedule in job tread, and just know that it's a rough schedule. And when I do schedules, I pad it because there's always stuff that comes up. However, if we say we're going to be done by a certain date, that's what date we're going to be done. And I usually will, once the starts things start happening, I bring the schedule back the other way. So that can be a hiccup. Uh Another struggle would be just time-wise, that something takes longer. You open up something and, oh my goodness, what the heck did they do? We gotta get the plumber in here twice, and getting on
Well,
everybody's schedule. Those type of headaches, um, are tough.
yeah. And do you like situation like that? I mean, would that be a change order, or is that, how do you handle those unforeseen circumstances?
Um, Depends on how much is there. So if it's for instance, we just did a bathroom where she wanted to add a separate sink. I was like, that definitely will be a change order because it wasn't there. But if
Mhm.
we would have opened it up and saw that she didn't have a vent pipe, I think that wouldn't have been a change order, because that would have been on the estimating piece of it to not see that. I do my best to do a solid estimate for people, with some padding in there. However, I'm not afraid of change orders. I mean, change orders are where the business is, and I've also it makes me sad to a certain extent. Like, people, I hear other contractors, yeah, they got the job and they underbid everyone else, but then they change ordered everybody to death. And I don't think that that's fair. That's not how I want to be treated. So that's not how we treat our clients at Schlick. We make sure we get a comprehensive estimate, and then I always tease with the client. I'm like, change orders will be most likely something that you decide to do. Like, oh, since you were here, why don't you do this bathroom? Or since you was here, do this. Um, but if we do open something up and it's just a mess, then we would have the conversation with the client of like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
To do something.
Do you all ever have like drawings, like have a designer come in or architect to kind of draw out the solution, or is it, more so smaller changes?
No, if we need an architect, we have a structural engineer. We bring out a lot of times an architect. We do use, I mean, my philosophy is, when I go to the bar, when I go to the hairdresser, I'm like, just like, do it. You're the expert.
Yeah.
So that's why job tread is so alluring to me, and Randy with the coaching is such a great fit for us, because it's like they're the experts in their field. The marketing's their expert in their field. We're the expert in our field. So use the experts.
Sure. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
A lot of times I think, the best teams will be the ones that have, an awesome quarterback that, can kind of bring all the right people around the table, make sure people are focused on their roles, kind of doing all the right blocking and tackling, and that's how you go out and you execute. And so, regardless if it's, one of your own, one of, your partners, whoever it may be, sometimes it can also be even managing the client, making sure they're, kind of doing the right things and getting the answers, and kind of sometimes extracting that information can be harder than you might want, but getting the right kind of decisions made at the right points can really help a project progress as well.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah. What would you say, just kind of thinking back on the last 3 years since you've taken over the business? I mean, like, what would you say has been some of the biggest changes that you've been able to help implement and that have made the biggest impact on the on the team or on the business as a whole?
Some of the biggest changes would be to change out the team. Get the A players on the team. Marketing. Um, we talked about, and then to get the guys in the field to buy into the benefit of taking pictures and having them all on job tread, and then clocking into job tread and clocking in to the correct job when they're on the job tread, instead of just, oh, this looks good. So that has been one of the probably the biggest things that I've implemented, is that, because yeah, that
Yeah.
would be.
Do you have kind of like, policies around it, SOPs? Like, how have you gone about sort of encouraging that correct behavior that you want to see?
Um, SOPs for sure. We talk about it. I'm very we yeah, we are a business, obviously, but we also are a team and a family. So we talk about it, we help each other out. We go through and make sure everybody knows how to do it. Um, I really like Gallup Strength Finder, which
Okay.
is, and so the whole idea about the Gallup is you use everybody's strengths. So everybody on the team knows each other's strengths. So if we're arranging, we'll go have the ranger go put everything in the job trailer. And they'll get it done 3 times as fast and they'll enjoy it. But and then it takes a lot of the emotion out of it. For
Sure.
instance, I had one guy, I'm like, and I like Gallup, because it's just one word. You can say command and you know what I'm talking about. It's not like some of the other ones where it's like, oh, I'm a golden retriever. Well, what the heck is a golden retriever? And then you're lost in the weeds. Anyways, so I had this guy that was command and a guy that was context. And they were just button heads like nobody's business. And so I told command, I'm like, context will work all day long for you if you tell him why he's building that wall. And
Yep.
and I told context, I'm like, you can tell by command's voice that something needs to happen right away. If he's like, shut off the water, we're flooding or doing something. And
Yeah.
so once I had that conversation and they were like, oh, they asked to work with each other again. So that's really something that I instill in our guys, that they have
Sure.
know each other's strengths. And it's so rare in the world. Everybody wants to talk about the weaknesses of this or that, and to actually celebrate how people are different and what makes them tick and how they see things is valuable. So that's why I
Yeah.
love that.
Awesome. So when you think about 2025, what are your big initiatives and goals that you want to see you guys accomplish?
We're still eating the elephant one bite at a time. Putting systems, SOPs in place, and moving directly into more qualified and more different, higher elite clientele, I guess, would be the biggest thing. That's what we're looking for.
Awesome. Well, I see you're going to be coming to Job Trade Connect in January, so that'll be really exciting. Hopefully, get you kind of some even more kind of tips and tricks from other contractors who are fully implemented with Job Trade, kind of learning how they're managing all those processes, how they've kind of walked up and got a little bit larger scale leads coming in, how their marketing's functioning, their sales, operations. I mean, all those things that sounds like you're continuing to work through. I think it'll be a great opportunity to learn from others and to collaborate, kind of share some stories and best practices. So, I'm really excited to see what you all can take away from that, and want to see you have a banner 2025. We got a brand new year coming in, so it's always a good time to sort of refresh and reset and put those new goals in place. And yeah, I hope to see you guys crush it.
Well, thank you. And Job Tread, the Facebook page, is just, everybody on there is just so helpful and so, like, always wanting to help, always figuring out a solution when people are stuck. And so it's a great community. It really is just great.
Yeah, I've really been really blown away by how awesome it is to see everybody working together and helping each other. I mean, my favorite saying is, "A rising tide lifts all boats." And I think with this community that we've brought of builders really all over the world coming together and just sharing, hey, here's what's working, or here's what questions I have, or why doesn't this do that? Like, it's just such a neat community that I think has really just exceeded our expectations for what a Facebook group could do. It's just so cool to see, our clients beating us to the punch, answering questions and, the how-tos and stuff. So I really appreciate, you being in there and being an active member as well. It's certainly been a great community, and yeah, excited to have everybody come real and in person, in January though. That's always my favorite time of the year as well. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, I really appreciate you coming on, Sherry, sharing a little bit of the behind the scenes there at Schlick Construction. Sounds like you guys, got a lot of momentum. You're putting the right systems and processes in place. You're building out the team. So, as I said, I'm excited to see what you can do in 2025 and can't wait to see you in January.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.